At COP30 in Belem, Brazil, the global community gathered to confront the urgent and escalating challenge of climate change. Amid this pivotal moment in history, Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva delivered a powerful message, emphasizing the necessity of science and multilateralism in guiding the path forward. As global leaders, scientists and activists convened, the weight of the choices ahead weighed heavily. Lula, in his address, framed the summit as a critical juncture where humanity had to decide whether to face the storm of climate change head-on or turn away in defeat. In the year when the planet surpassed, for the first time and perhaps permanently, the limit of 1.5 degrees above pre-industrial levels, Lula began the international community faced a choice to continue or to give up. We opted for the first alternative. His words resonated deeply as they acknowledged not only the magnitude of the crisis, but also the undeniable truth that the world had reached a tipping point. The Brazilian president went on to highlight the significance of the deal that had emerged from the conference, calling it a victory for science and for the principle of multilateral cooperation. In the cup of truth, science prevailed, multilateralism won, Lula declared. This statement was not merely rhetorical, it was a reflection of the collective determination to face the climate crisis with evidence-based solutions and global unity. The agreement reached at COP30 was not just a diplomatic victory, it was a triumph of reason and commitment to future generations. As the summit progressed, Lula reaffirmed Brazil's dedication to the Paris Agreement, a cornerstone of international climate policy. He emphasized that the world's nations had taken bold steps toward achieving the goals of the accord. We reaffirmed our commitment to the Paris Agreement. We left Belem with a renewed framework of nationally determined contributions, he said, highlighting the progress made in strengthening global commitments to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. The summit, which brought together a diverse array of stakeholders, civil society, academia, the private sector, indigenous peoples and social movements, demonstrated the immense power of collective action. We mobilized civil society, academia, the private sector, indigenous peoples and social movements to make COP30 the COP with the second highest participation in history, Lula proudly noted. This inclusive approach was a clear sign that the fight against climate change requires everyone's involvement, from grassroots activists to corporate giants. However, even as the summit marked a significant milestone, Lula's words underscored the urgency of the situation. He pointed to the disparities in global spending priorities, a stark contrast between the funds allocated for military expenditures and those for climate action. It is inconceivable that we cannot mobilize $1.3 trillion in climate financing while double that amount is consumed by military expenditures, Lula lamented. His remarks were a sharp critique of the global priorities that continue to direct vast sums of money toward armed conflicts rather than the preservation of the planet's future. The president's call for a shift in spending was not merely a financial argument, but a moral one. Strengthening disaster prevention and response, he asserted, is a matter of life and death. The consequences of inaction were not theoretical for Lula. They were real and present in the world's communities. The system will put our bridges, highways, buildings and transmission lines to the test. He warned the impacts of climate change were no longer distant projections. They were becoming visible and tangible. From rising sea levels to extreme weather events, every facet of society would feel the strain. Lula's words painted a vivid picture of a world that would require new methods for managing vital resources, such as water, food and energy. It will require more efficient ways of managing water, growing food and producing energy. His statement underscored the reality that climate change isn't just an environmental issue, but a comprehensive challenge that touches every aspect of human existence. Yet, despite the daunting realities ahead, Lula offered a glimmer of hope, rooted in the belief that resilience can be built. Building resilience is not an expense, it's an investment, he declared. His words echoed a crucial truth. The cost of adapting to climate change today will pale in comparison to the catastrophic costs of failing to act. For every dollar invested in adaptation, $4 are gained in avoided losses and in other social and economic benefits. In this statement, Lula made a compelling case for why the world must invest in resilience, not just to safeguard infrastructure, but to protect people's lives and livelihoods. It is an investment not in the future of a few, but in the survival of entire communities. Lula's vision for resilience was not one rooted solely in infrastructure. He pointed to the role of government and public policy in ensuring that communities could recover after disasters struck. When someone is hit by an extreme event, it is the state's public policies that help them get back on their feet, Lula said. His recognition that social protection systems are crucial for building resilience was an important call to action. Yet, he was quick to point out the disparity in the world's ability to protect its citizens. About half of the world's population lacks social protection, Lula noted, emphasizing that a resilient world is one where all people, regardless of their nationality, wealth or status, are supported in times of crisis. The Brazilian president's words were a clarion call for a more just and equitable global response to climate change. They challenged the international community to reflect on its priorities, to reimagine what it means to be resilient, and to act boldly in the face of an existential crisis. Lula's call for action was not just about changing policies, it was about changing the very systems that govern how societies function. Lula's leadership at COP30 and his impassioned speech were emblematic of the broader global shift taking place. There was an undeniable momentum toward action, but the road ahead is still fraught with challenges. The agreement reached at COP30, while an important step forward, is just the beginning of what will undoubtedly be a long and complex journey. But with multilateral cooperation, a commitment to science and a shared vision for the future, there is hope that the world can rise to the occasion. As world leaders return to their respective countries, the task now is to translate the commitments made in Belem into real, on-the-ground action. The climate crisis will not wait, and neither can the world. The future of the planet depends on the decisions made today. Lula's powerful call for investment in resilience, in adaptation, and in social protection is a reminder that the choices made now will determine whether humanity will succeed or fail in addressing the most pressing challenge of our time. In conclusion, the outcomes of COP30 serve as a vital turning point in the global fight against climate change, with Brazil's leadership under President Lula standing as a testament to the power of multilateralism and scientific collaboration. While challenges remain, the commitments made in Belem offer a renewed sense of urgency and hope. As nations rally together, the time to act is now for the survival of our planet, for the well-being of future generations, and for the resilience of communities worldwide. The decisions made today will shape the future, and it is incumbent upon all of us to ensure that we rise to meet this critical moment with the boldness and dedication it demands. In the year when the planet surpassed, for the first time and perhaps permanently, the limit of 1.5 degrees above pre-industrial levels, the international community faced a choice to continue or to give up. We opted for the first alternative. We reaffirmed our commitment to the Paris Agreement. We left Belem with a renewed framework of nationally determined contributions.
We mobilized civil society, academia, the private sector, indigenous peoples and social movements, making COP30 the COP with the second highest participation in history.
It is inconceivable that we cannot mobilize $1.3 trillion in climate financing, while double that amount is consumed by military expenditures. Strengthening disaster prevention and response capacity is a matter of life and death. The system will put our bridges, highways, buildings and transmission lines to the test. It will require more efficient ways of managing water, growing food and producing energy.
Fortalecer a capacidade de prevenção e resposta a desastres é uma questão de vida ou morte.
Building resilience is not an expense, it's an investment. For every dollar invested in adaptation, $4 are gained in avoided losses and in other social and economic benefits.
Digerir a água, cultivar alimentos e produzir energia. Construir resiliência não é gasto, é investimento. Para cada dólar investido em adaptação, ganha-se $4 em prejuízos evitados.
But a resilient world is not built on infrastructure alone. When someone is hit by an extreme event, it is the state's public policies that help them get back on their feet. Yet, about half of the world's population lacks social protection.
São as políticas públicas do Estado que ajudam a se reerguer. Contudo, cerca da metade da população mundial não conta com proteção social. Quase